Welcome to the deep dive. Ready for something really fascinating? Today we're diving into the human body. You've given us Dr. Darko Velcek's Owner's Manual for the Human Body, a book packed with, well, let's just say unconventional perspectives and some pretty bold claims.
It definitely challenges a lot of common assumptions about health and well-being. Dr. Velcek draws on the work of researchers like Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Feridun Batmanglij.
Okay, so right off the bat, one of the most striking things he claims is that based on the adolescent to lifespan ratio we see in nature, humans should be living 280 to 400 years.
That's a pretty significant difference from our current lifespans. He's basically saying that our modern lifestyle is cutting our lives way shorter than they should be.
And he seems to place a lot of blame on cooked food, saying it messes with our body's electropolarity and leads to premature aging. He even proposes that something called blood electrification can rapidly accelerate healing.
Blood electrification is a bit outside the mainstream, but it's based on the work of Dr. Robert Beck. The idea is that by infusing the blood with tiny electrical currents, you can actually boost its energy and revitalize cells, sort of bypassing the brain's usual energy regulation.
Whoa, that's pretty wild. So if cooked food is the villain, what does Dr. Velcek suggest we fuel our bodies with?
He's a big proponent of a raw food diet, claiming that cooking destroys the life force within food, preventing it from properly communicating with our bodies. He suggests this dead food basically triggers a defensive response in our systems, leading to things like bloating, fatigue, and inflammation.
So our bodies are basically at war with cooked food. That's definitely a pretty radical departure from what most people believe. Is such a diet even possible? Or realistic, I guess, for most people?
It's definitely a huge EE shift, no question about it. Dr. Velcek points to the Eskimos, whose traditional diet consists largely of raw meat and fat, as an example of people thriving on raw food.
Raw meat and fat. That's quite a different picture from the salads and smoothies most people associate with raw food. Where do fruits and vegetables fit into this picture?
He distinguishes between vegetables meant to be eaten raw and those that require cooking. For instance, he explains that unripe fruits contain protective proteins that can actually cause intestinal issues.
That makes sense. I've definitely experienced some stomach upset from unripe bananas.
Exactly. Once the fruit ripens and its seeds are ready for dispersal, those proteins transform into fructose, making the fruit safe and tasty.
This is really making me rethink my food choices. Dr. Velcek also seems to have some pretty unconventional views about fats. He actually embraces saturated fats, something a lot of health experts warn against.
He argues that natural saturated fats, the kind found in butter and coconut oil, are actually essential for our cells. On the other hand, he views hydrogenated fats like margarine as very detrimental, calling them electromagnetically unbalanced.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying butter is making a comeback? I mean, I grew up being told margarine was the heart-healthy choice.
Well, Dr. Velcek would strongly disagree. He contends that margarine disrupts the balance within our cells, potentially contributing to a whole host of health issues.
It seems like he's turning conventional wisdom upside down. He also challenges the common fear of cholesterol, that molecule that everyone loves to demonize.
He actually posits that cholesterol is produced by our cells on demand for essential functions like repair and protection. He even suggests that elevated cholesterol levels could be a sign that the body is trying to heal itself or fight off infection.
So those cholesterol-lowering medications might not be the heroes we've been led to believe.
Dr. Velcek argues that we need sufficient cholesterol, especially from saturated fat, for healthy cell membranes. He sees these medications as potentially interfering with vital processes.
This is a lot to process. Let's shift gears for a minute and talk about sugar. Everyone knows that too much sugar is bad for you, but what specifically concerns Dr. Velcek?
He's particularly focused on the harmful effects of fructose, especially in large amounts. He links excessive fructose intake to issues like obesity, diabetes, and inflammation, pointing out that our bodies can only handle a limited amount each day.
It's crazy how much fructose is hidden in processed foods these days. What about those supposedly healthy sugar substitutes? Does Dr. Velcek offer any alternatives?
He advises against artificial sweeteners, citing research that links them to cellular dehydration and even cancer. He does suggest honey as a natural substitute, but emphasizes moderation even with natural sweeteners.
So even when we're trying to make healthier choices, balance is still key. Dr. Velcek seems to really favor a holistic approach. emphasizing the interconnectedness of our bodies and how all of our choices have these ripple effects.
Absolutely. He even goes into the power of our thoughts, postulating that negativity actually drains us while positivity can fuel healing. He cites research suggesting that our thoughts emit electromagnetic frequencies that can actually influence our well-being.
So our mental state can literally be impacting our physical health at a cellular level. That's fascinating. Can you tell us more about that research?
The idea is that our thoughts, much like our cells, generate electromagnetic frequencies, and these frequencies can either resonate with each other or clash, affecting our overall vitality. Dr. Velcek goes as far as to say that positive thoughts emanating from the heart can actually strengthen our electromagnetic potential, making us more resilient to illness.
Wow, that's quite a perspective. It kind of takes the whole power of positive thinking thing to a whole new level. But what about those defenses we usually try to boost with vaccines? What's Dr. Velcek's stance on vaccinations?
Interestingly, he criticizes commercially produced vaccines, calling them ineffective and potentially even harmful. He advocates for bolstering our natural immunity through diet and lifestyle choices, emphasizing the importance of vitamin D3 from sunshine and food rather than relying on vaccines.
So sun and nutrients over shots, huh? That's definitely a different way of looking at immunity. Does his skepticism extend to supplements and medications too?
He urges caution against over-reliance on both, arguing that they might provide temporary relief but don't actually address the root causes of illness. He is a big advocate for using natural methods to restore cellular health.
So it all comes back to those fundamentals. Nourishing ourselves with the right foods, water, and energy. This deep dive is really reshaping my understanding of health. Dr. Velcek seems to want us to question everything we thought we knew.
Precisely. And get this, he even takes aim at something that seems totally harmless, garlic. He actually calls it a neurotoxin.
Wait, garlic? But isn't it supposed to be good for you?
Dr. Velcek argues that while garlic might have some medicinal properties, it also contains a compound that can interfere with cellular hydration. He even suggests avoiding onions and leeks.
So another supposed health food bites the dust. This is incredible. Dr. Velcek's perspective is making me totally rethink my diet. What else does this owner's manual have in store for us?
He goes into specific ailments, offering his unique take on their origins and potential solutions. He covers a wide range from rheumatism and arthritis to ulcers, even hernias.
Well, let's dive into those specific conditions and Dr. Velcek's unconventional perspectives in our next segment. This is turning out to be a truly fascinating exploration of the human body.
Dr. Velcek's approach to specific ailments really emphasizes his idea that cellular hydration is key. He sees it as a major factor in conditions we often blame on other things.
That's really interesting. Maybe we can start with those everyday aches and pains. Rheumatism, arthritis. Are those really just like inevitable parts of getting older, as most people think?
Dr. Velcek would probably say no. He links these conditions to dehydration within the joints. He suggests that when joints don't have enough moisture, toxins like uric acid build up, and that triggers inflammation and pain.
So creaky knees and stiff shoulders could actually be a sign of thirst. There's definitely a new way of thinking about it for me.
It definitely makes you look at joint health differently. He stresses the importance of drinking plenty of water to flush out those toxins and keep things lubricated.
Okay, let's move on to stomach ulcers. We usually associate those with stress and, too much stomach acid. What's Dr. Velcek's take on that?
Well, he has a pretty surprising view. He actually says that ulcers can be caused by not enough stomach acid.
Not enough? How's that possible?
Yeah.
Wouldn't low stomach acid make digestion harder?
He argues that stomach acid production is a demand-driven process. It's supposed to help us digest food. So when there isn't enough acid, the protective barrier in the stomach lining weakens, making it more prone to irritation and ulcers.
So without that acid buffer, the stomach lining is basically exposed. It sounds counterintuitive, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it.
And of course, Dr. Velcek brings dehydration into the picture here too. He suggests that not drinking enough water and not getting enough salt can actually hinder stomach acid production.
This is making me rethink all those antacids I've taken over the years. Maybe I should have just had a glass of water with a pinch of salt.
It's something to consider. Dr. Velcek's philosophy leans heavily towards natural remedies and lifestyle changes rather than pharmaceuticals.
He also talks about hernias, which I've always thought of as purely structural issues. How does dehydration fit into that?
Well, Dr. Velcek suggests that hernias can develop when the muscle cells in the abdominal wall become dehydrated. When they shrink and weaken, the muscular mesh that holds everything in place can give way.
So it's not just weakened muscles, but shrunken muscles from lack of water. It's amazing how he links all these seemingly different conditions back to dehydration.
He sees it as this underlying factor that affects our health in really profound ways. He even says that surgery for hernias is often ineffective because if the dehydration isn't addressed, new hernias are likely to pop up.
It's like putting a bandage on a wound without cleaning up the infection, right? It makes you realize that to truly heal, you have to address the root cause.
Exactly. Dr. Velcek is all about finding and addressing the root cause, not just masking the symptoms.
This really underscores the idea that all the systems in our body are connected. Dehydration seems to be this common thread running through so many health challenges. What other conditions does Dr. Velcek shed light on?
Well, he delves into Crohn's disease and lupus, which are often categorized as autoimmune disorders. But he takes a different view.
Really? What does he think triggers those conditions?
He believes cellular dehydration plays a significant role in their development.
So instead of the body attacking itself, it's dehydration that's causing the problem. It's a pretty bold statement.
It definitely goes against mainstream medical thinking. He suggests that toxins, often from food, can disrupt the delicate balance of hydration in the cells lining the intestines, leading to inflammation and the symptoms associated with Crohn's.
And what about lupus? How does he connect that to dehydration?
Dr. Velcek argues that people with lupus often simply don't drink enough water, and this leads to widespread cellular dehydration. He even suggests that the swelling you often see in lupus patients isn't due to high salt concentration, as is commonly believed, but rather it's the body's way of trying to create water reserves.
So staying hydrated is essential, even when it seems counterintuitive, like when there's swelling.
His whole approach is about trusting the body's natural wisdom and giving it what it needs to work properly. He also addresses diabetes, a condition that's, it's affecting more and more people these days.
What's his perspective on this, global epidemic?
Dr. Velcek connects the rise in diabetes directly to our modern diet, particularly the overconsumption of processed foods and cooked starches that are high in glucose. He focuses on the type of sugar we're consuming, not just the amount.
So it's not just sugar in general, but the form it takes and how it's been processed that matters.
Exactly. He explains that when we overload our bodies with glucose, the pancreas goes into overdrive, producing too much insulin.
And insulin is what helps our cells absorb glucose for energy.
Right. But when there's a constant flood of glucose and insulin, our cells can actually become resistant to insulin's effects.
And that insulin resistance is what leads to type 2 diabetes.
Yes. And Dr. Velcek argues that to reverse this insulin resistance and ultimately diabetes, we need to make a fundamental shift away from cooked starches and processed foods in our diet.
So he's basically advocating for a low-carb, high-fat approach, which is becoming more and more popular these days.
It definitely fits with his emphasis on eating natural fats and minimizing processed foods. He even mentions the benefits of coconut oil for boosting metabolism and reducing sugar absorption.
Coconut oil seems to be a recurring theme in his recommendations.
It is. He highlights its versatility, not just for cooking, but also for things like moisturizing the skin and even improving cognitive function.
Speaking of cognitive function, Dr. Velcek also addresses Alzheimer's disease, a condition a lot of people worry about as they get older. Does he offer any hope for preventing or maybe even reversing this cognitive decline?
He does. Dr. Velcek draws on research suggesting a link between Alzheimer's and insulin resistance within the brain itself.
So the same thing that's driving type 2 diabetes could be at play in Alzheimer's.
That's what he's suggesting. He believes the brain actually thrives on ketones, which are derived from fat, not glucose. When we flood the brain with too much glucose, it can lead to insulin resistance and eventually to energy deficits, even though there's plenty of sugar around.
It's like the brain is starving, even though it's surrounded by food, just the wrong kind of food.
That's a good analogy. He suggests that switching to a diet that's higher in healthy fats and lower in carbs might actually improve cognitive function.
This really shows how important our food choices are. We're not just feeding our stomachs, we're feeding our brains and every cell in our bodies.
He also emphasizes the importance of mental exercise for maintaining cognitive health as we age.
Mental exercise, so not just physical workouts, but like brain workouts too.
Yeah, exactly. He observes that as we get older, we tend to get stuck in routines and do less creative thinking. So he encourages activities that challenge us mentally to keep our minds sharp.
So things like crossword puzzles, learning new languages, or picking up a musical instrument could help prevent cognitive decline.
That's what he suggests. He really advocates for a holistic view, recognizing the connection between our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. He even delves into men's health, specifically impotence and the loss of erection.
Oh, wow. What insights does he offer on these, sensitive issues?
He argues that these problems often stem from poor blood circulation, which, as we've discussed, he believes can be improved significantly through hydration and dietary changes.
So instead of turning to pharmaceutical solutions, men might find more lasting solutions by focusing on overall health improvements.
That's Dr. Velcek's premise. He stresses addressing the root cause rather than just treating the symptoms. He also gets into allergies, suggesting they aren't always the result of an overactive immune system.
I'm curious about that. What does he think triggers allergies then?
He suggests that dehydration in the mucosal membranes, those delicate tissues that line our respiratory and digestive tracts, can play a big role.
So when those membranes aren't properly hydrated, they're more susceptible to allergens.
That's what he's saying. He explains that when cells don't have enough water, they can't effectively produce mucus, which normally acts as a barrier. This leaves those membranes more vulnerable.
It seems like proper hydration is crucial for, every system in our bodies.
It really is a recurring theme in his work. He considers it essential for overall well-being. He also talks about asthma, which is often classified as an allergic reaction, but he sees it a bit differently.
Oh, okay. What's his take on asthma?
While he acknowledges that allergies can sometimes be involved, he thinks asthma attacks are mainly triggered by dehydration within the lungs themselves.
Dehydration in the lungs. How does that lead to breathing problems?
He explains that when lung cells are dehydrated, they try to conserve water, which causes the airways to constrict, leading to the wheezing and shortness of breath that's characteristic of asthma.
So it's the body's attempt to hold onto moisture that's actually making it harder to breathe.
That's his theory. And not surprisingly, he recommends staying well hydrated as a key strategy for managing asthma.
This makes me wonder how many conditions we think of as separate problems might actually have a common root: dehydration.
It's an interesting thought. Dr. Velcek really encourages us to think outside the box when it comes to diagnoses and to consider how interconnected our body systems are. He even tackles a, kind of delicate topic: constipation.
Constipation. It's not something we talk about much, but it's definitely a common issue. What's his perspective on that?
He links constipation to both dehydration and dietary choices. He suggests that eating a diet rich in raw foods, particularly meat and fat, can actually promote regularity.
So it's not just about fiber intake, like we're often told.
Dr. Velcek argues that fiber, especially from cooked plants, can make constipation worse by binding up water in the intestines.
Interesting. So it's about the type of fiber we eat, A&D, making sure we're drinking enough water. He's really a champion for raw meat and fat, isn't he?
He is. He argues that our bodies are designed to digest these foods efficiently and that they provide essential nutrients that are vital for good health.
That's certainly a different perspective on digestion. What other conditions does he talk about in this owner's manual?
He discusses kidney stones and kidney failure, which can be incredibly painful and debilitating.
What does he see as the underlying causes of those kidney problems?
You guessed it. Dehydration is a major culprit. He claims that not drinking enough water can cause mineral buildup in the kidneys, which forms those agonizing stones.
So it's like the minerals crystallize out of the urine when there's not enough water to flush them out.
That's a good way to put it. He also emphasizes the importance of salt for healthy kidney function, which goes against the common advice to limit salt for kidney health.
This is really turning everything I thought I knew about health upside down. What about osteoporosis? That's a problem that affects a lot of women as they age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brittle bones, increased risk of fractures.
Mm-hmm. He challenges the idea that osteoporosis is mainly due to calcium deficiency. He points out that people with osteoporosis often excrete calcium in their urine, which suggests they're not actually lacking calcium.
So if it's not a calcium deficiency, what does he think is the real issue?
Dr. Velcek suggests that osteoporosis often results from a diet that's too acidic. This depletes the body's alkaline buffers, making it harder for calcium to be deposited in the bones.
So it's not just about how much calcium we're getting, but also whether our bodies can actually absorb and use it properly.
Exactly. He emphasizes the importance of maintaining a balanced pH level through diet and lifestyle.
This really highlights how much control we have over our own health. It's not just about genetics or random chance, but the choices we make every day.
That's a key point that Dr. Velcek makes. We're not just passive victims of our genes or circumstances. We have an active role to play in our health journey.
And of course, he doesn't shy away from talking about cancer. What does he have to say about this, dreaded disease?
He acknowledges that it's very prevalent these days, but he doesn't believe it's just an inevitable part of aging or this mysterious, incurable illness.
So if it's not just bad luck or genes, what does he think is driving the cancer epidemic?
He points to the research of Dr. Otto Warburg, who won a Nobel Prize back in 1930 for his work linking cancer to oxygen deprivation in cells.
So cancer cells are basically suffocating.
It's a simplified explanation, but essentially, Dr. Velcek believes that cancer cells thrive in an environment that's low in oxygen and high in acidity, and our modern diet and lifestyle often create those conditions.
That makes you think about the environment we're creating inside our own bodies. It's like we're unintentionally setting the stage for disease.
He makes a strong case for how our choices impact our cellular health. But he doesn't just focus on the problems, he offers solutions too.
What does he suggest for preventing or even reversing cancer?
He recommends alkalizing the body through diet and lifestyle changes, essentially creating an environment that's hostile to cancer cells. He also emphasizes stress management, believing that chronic stress contributes to low cellular energy, which makes us more vulnerable to disease.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Nourishing the cells, reducing stress, and creating a more alkaline internal environment.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the power of the mind, believing that positive thoughts can actually contribute to healing.
That's amazing. It's like we have this incredible ability to heal within us, but we need to create the right conditions for it to work.
Dr. Velcek is a firm believer in the body's innate capacity for self-healing.
Before we wrap up this segment, I want to touch on something he mentions throughout the book: the suppression of good science and the promotion of bad science.
He argues that the pharmaceutical industry profits from keeping people sick and dependent on medications. He suggests that natural remedies and lifestyle changes that actually address the root causes of illness are often overlooked or even discredited because they threaten the profits of this powerful industry.
It sounds like a battle between profits and people's well-being.
That's how he sees it. He encourages people to become more informed about their health and to question what they're told. He wants us to take charge of our own health.
It's like we need to become our own health advocates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Armed with knowledge and empowered to make choices that truly support our well-being. It's a call to action.
Absolutely. He's all about personal empowerment when it comes to health.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of Dr. Velcek's Owner's Manual for the Human Body. We've covered so much ground, from the importance of hydration and the potential dangers of cooked food to the power of positive thinking and the idea that good science might be suppressed.
It's a perspective that really challenges us to rethink what we believe, explore different approaches, and ultimately take an active role in our own healing journeys.
It's certainly given us a lot to think about. In our final segment, we'll delve into Dr. Velcek's specific protocol for reclaiming health and vitality through what he calls cellular medicine. I think it's going to be a fascinating conclusion to our deep dive. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Dr. Darko Velcek's Owner's Manual for the Human Body. So in this final segment, we're going to uncover his specific protocol for revitalizing our health through what he calls cellular medicine.
Dr. Velcek's protocol really boils down to creating an environment where our cells can flourish. He focuses on three main things: a clean environment, adequate water intake, and cultivating positive energy.
It's kind of like giving ourselves the ideal conditions to thrive, right? Let's break down each of these pillars. First, what does he mean by a clean environment?
He emphasizes minimizing exposure to toxins, both the ones that come from outside our bodies and the ones we create internally. So that means reducing environmental pollutants, limiting exposure to electromagnetic radiation, and of course, avoiding those dietary toxins we talked about earlier. Processed foods, too much sugar, even garlic.
It's almost like a total cellular detox, right? Addressing internal and external sources of harm.
Precisely. He believes that by minimizing our exposure to toxins, we free up our cells to focus on repair and regeneration.
Makes sense. And what about the second pillar, sufficient water intake? We've already established that he's a huge advocate for hydration.
He stresses drinking plenty of pure, structured water, ideally from natural springs or wells that haven't been subjected to harsh filtration or chemical treatments. He also recommends adding a pinch of unrefined sea salt to enhance mineral absorption.
So, ditching the bottled water and opting for a glass of natural spring water with a dash of sea salt. It sounds pretty simple.
He believes that unrefined sea salt provides those essential minerals that support cellular function and hydration.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the third pillar, positive energy. We touched on the power of positive thinking earlier, but how does this fit into his overall protocol?
Dr. Velcek proposes that our thoughts and emotions have a direct impact on our cells' well-being. He encourages cultivating positive emotions like love, gratitude, and joy while minimizing negativity and stress.
So it's not just about what we're putting into our bodies physically, but also the kind of energy we're creating within.
Exactly. He sees the body as this complex, interconnected system where everything we do, think, and feel influences our overall health.
This really emphasizes that mind-body connection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Dr. Velcek also incorporates a rather unconventional tool into his protocol, the blood electrifier developed by Dr. Robert Beck.
Right, we mentioned that briefly earlier. It uses these tiny currents of electricity to stimulate the blood, supposedly boosting its electromagnetic potential and revitalizing cellular function.
Is there any scientific evidence to back up these claims?
The research on blood electrification is still pretty limited, and it's not widely accepted by mainstream medicine. Dr. Velcek mostly relies on anecdotal evidence and patient testimonials to support its effectiveness.
It definitely sounds intriguing, but are there any precautions people should take before using a blood electrifier?
Dr. Velcek emphasizes that this therapy should only be used under the guidance of a qualified healthcare professional. It's important to consider potential interactions with certain medications or pre-existing health conditions. And he stresses the importance of maintaining a clean diet and minimizing toxin exposure while using the device because it can actually increase the absorption of both beneficial and harmful substances.
So it's not like a quick fix or a magic bullet. Those lifestyle modifications and a holistic approach are still crucial.
Absolutely. Dr. Velcek's philosophy is all about taking responsibility for your own health and being proactive in the healing process.
This has been such a thought-provoking exploration of Dr. Velcek's Owner's Manual for the Human Body. It's really challenged conventional thinking about health and made a strong argument for the potential of cellular medicine.
It's definitely an invitation to question what we've been told, to explore alternative options, and ultimately to become active participants in our own health journey.
It's given us so much to think about, that's for sure. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final provocative thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think Dr. Velcek's work really highlights the fact that our bodies have this incredible ability to heal themselves. By giving ourselves the nourishment and care they need, and by cultivating a positive, supportive, internal environment, we can tap into that healing power and achieve a level of vitality we may never have thought possible. The question is, are we willing to embrace the responsibility for our own health and embark on that journey?
That's a powerful question to ponder. And on that note, we encourage you to continue exploring the world of cellular medicine and see what resonates with you. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.